Welcome to the Dirt Broadcast. Dig into the bottom of every situation to get to the truth. Here's your host, Jason Mills.
Unmute. All right. There we Sorry about folks. My laptop decided to do an update, and during that process, kicked all my streaming stuff off, and I had to redo it, and I didn't get everything I wanted backloaded for the podcast, but I didn't want to make y'all wait any longer, so here I am. It takes a little bit to get everything set up and all that kind of good thing, just trying to get everything together. And like I said, set up for the podcast and that kind of thing. And like I said, so everything that I want to cover tonight, we won't be able to, but we'll cover some stuff and we'll chit chat a little while. And I don't know why the glare on my computer is so bright today. Anyways, I apologize. One thing after another today. Welcome to the Dirt Podcast. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Remember to like, share, comment. We appreciate that. Again, sorry for being late. Feel free to ask any question you might have as we go through the evening, and I'll try to answer that just as quickly and the best way I can. Again, sorry for being late. Dang computers and when they work and don't work and all that stuff. But like I said, my laptop was update, deleted everything. So I had to hurry up and try to get it put back and that kind of thing. But anyway, since I'm already, we won't drag it out. Remember, you can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, KickTesting.com, and Rumble. All of them except for Rumble are under the Dirt Podcast, and Rumble is the Dirt Podcast. UC all typed out and all one word. Otherwise, you won't be able to find me on Rumble. Good evening, Sam. Watching the podcast on YouTube. I appreciate that. Like I said, folks, if you don't like Facebook, you can follow me on any of those other platforms and get your friends and neighbors and all that kind of good thing to follow me on those other ones. I greatly appreciate it. Facebook kind of gets finicky sometimes, but we do what we can. Again, I do apologize for being late. Technology. Anyway, so lots of things going on. I hope everybody had a good weekend and went down to the Heritage Festival if that was your choice. I know UT didn't play, so you couldn't watch them play, but they'll be back this weekend. I believe kickoff is 4:15 this week, this Saturday. So if you're a Vols fan, be sure to watch them and that kind of thing. But yeah, the Heritage Festival seemed like it did really well. I had to work today, so I drove by as I was headed to one of my deliveries, and I seen the crowd there and all that kind of good stuff. And so I hope everybody that attended that um, had a great time. I heard there was lots of good food and all that kind of good things. So about time, Jeanette Beeler. You messaged me. I told you. Anyway, but we do appreciate everybody for joining us on the podcast tonight, even though I'm late. Let's see. I assume Mayor Bailey's on a cruise from the pictures I've seen, and so I hope he's having a good time on his vacation. And been kind of quiet as far as politics goes, county commissions and all that kind of good thing. I did get an update from Sydney Jesse. The last podcast I said that he never responded after he promised me that he would look into some things. And his response last week, and like I said, I didn't get to have a podcast last week because technical difficulties. But anyway, he said, "Good afternoon, Jason. I did speak with our attorney general and did some research. That was what I concluded. Ouster suits are more civil than criminal in nature, with a few exceptions. These types of suits do take a lot of time to process. Please reference the link above for more information regarding ouster suits." He just sent the same thing that I already knew about ouster suits and that kind of thing. They didn't really tell me anything other than I did follow that up with is it being pursued or not? Is Justin's family going to get some kind of clarity as far as what they talked to him about and that kind of thing? And I didn't get any other response from Commissioner Jesse, which I didn't expect that I would. So, uh, there's the update on that. And for those that might not know what I'm talking about, when the Justin's family did their little protest at the last county commission meeting, we at several times confronted some of the commissioners and the mayor, and we asked about ouster suits and as regards to the sheriff and all those other kinds of things, and we want clarification. I got a promise from Sydney Jesse that Commissioner Jesse that he would follow up and do everything he could, and blah blah. And yeah, I knew it was smoke, but I followed up. I did my part, and there we go. So that's the update on that. Sorry, folks. Just messages from people asking if I'm on. They can't find me. Anyways, so that was that. Any other updates I got before we jump into anything? Nothing that I can think of right off the top of my head. The meeting dates and times are on the Dirt Podcast Facebook page if you want to look at that. Be sure to attend those meetings if you can. And like I said, folks, due to my laptop doing what it did and deleting everything, it may be a short podcast tonight, may not be. Who knows? That kind of depends on y'all asking questions and stuff, but also some of the things I've got to talk to you about. But I didn't get to, after everything got deleted, in order to get back on the podcast as quickly as possible, I did not get to redo everything. So I've done a few things. And with that, the limited topics that I've got for tonight, because of that, we'll jump right into it. So, if you remember, and I don't think Constable Dennis knows I'm doing this, but I'll ask for forgiveness later instead of permission before. But so, and he says hello all, so he's on here. But if you remember before, the UNL did this story about the constables and them not being, compliant. Uh-oh. Now my computer's doing other stuff. About them being non-compliant and the open records request that she did, and uh, the basic admission of her and the Tennessee Constable Association and that kind of thing. I know it's like beating a dead horse, but she keeps going after the constables for some reason, and so therefore it becomes a topic for me. Again, the TBI did their investigation on these constables. As far as I am aware, they've all been, again, this was a story, they've all been cleared of anything. They've not done anything wrong. But that was her story. And with that, I wanted to follow up tonight with, like I said, her constant going after people, her constant just harassment and all this stuff. The constables, if something doesn't change before next August, the constables are done and gone in Union County. Hopefully we can get it changed, but that's the fact, folks. After August, the constable position is no more in Union County. But yet she likes to still go after them, still try to act like they're the worst thing on earth, like all this stuff, right? So I wanted to point out something that, like I said, we've kind of already showed that there was some collusion going on and that kind of thing with the Tennessee Constable Association, and the trying to get rid of constables and their whole deal with the trying to get the constables or some of the constables to resign, and just all this other nonsense that went on. If you remember all that, but here's uh oh.
Busted.
I had to play it.
Yeah. Busted.
Why do I say? Well, I say busted because that story that I showed claims that the constables aren't compliant and they've not done their training and all this kind of stuff. But look there, folks. Busted. Busted. There's one of the constable certification that he had done all of his training for 2025 and is compliant and all this kind of stuff. So again, like I say, her own words.
Busted.
Busted. So I guess if she wanted to, she could consider that. She could look at the podcast there and see that the certificate shows that said constable, at least one of them, that one, is compliant and up to date, and therefore she don't have to worry about her open records request anymore. I just showed it to her. But like I said, she's always got to go after somebody. She'll make up a story, she'll add, she'll embellish a story to make whatever position she's trying to make look better. I've been on the end of her wrath. Um, I know several others have been. I know Jeff Brantley has been. I know constables have been. There have been so many people that she's just gone after and make stories up. It's just like I said, in the last article she wrote about me about the speech I did. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. The speech I did trying to save the constables, and she talked about how I lied and all this other stuff, and then come to find out everything I said was true, and uh, was even backed up by some of the commissioners during the meeting and all that. You remember all that stuff? But it's just what she does. She's got to smash mouth, and she's got to make people look bad, and she's got to harass people and think that people are going to back down from her, because she's got the full backing of the local government. One of those, um, and I think, or I hope that she knows that by now. If not, she can keep coming after me, and I'll keep exposing her lies. But it's not, or shouldn't be a battle. I do what I do. I do the podcast. I stick to myself. I verify my facts, and I do all this stuff before I even bring it to the podcast to make sure that I'm giving everybody the honest information. I don't make stories up. I don't. I used to call this the dog poop picker upper paper because that's all it's good for. Um, and, people like it. People come to her defense and all this kind of stuff, which is perfectly fine. But I hope and pray that everybody that watches the podcast here knows when I give you information that it's actually factual. And like I said, again, I'll show that this constable is in compliance, has done all of this training for 2025, and her article that she wrote on 2 pages was BS. And a lot of what she writes is BS. And if you look at that paper, almost every story has her name on it. And is there no other person that could write articles for that newspaper? Is there? I could go on, but let's move on. Still concerning Marty. When this happened, and I just took it off of there because it was funny.
Busted.
With her and her busted and all that, I just wanted to throw that back at her. As far as the constables go, what she was saying was not true and not factual, but brings me to this situation here. This was Duck Duck Goose, where this was recorded at, and this is Marty recording, and it is her trying to say that Union County deputies were over here working and shouldn't have been. And she tried to infer or tried to basically tell people that the Union County deputies were working over at Duck Duck Goose on their taxpayer dime, which is absolutely false. 100% false. Let me tell you, folks, I was a police officer. Those of you who don't know, I was a police officer officer for 8. I can't talk today. I said that for 8 years, and I've I've got a lot of friends that are police officers. Just all kinds of things. So the point is this: here's the fact: every officer, deputy, officer, city in the this is going to be a broad term, but in the entire United States, some departments don't allow it, but in totality, most police departments, sheriff's departments in the United States allow their officers to work side jobs, and a side job can be anything. A side job could be working duck duck goose, working security. Side job could be when you're driving down Highway 33 and you see those deputies on the side of the road, it's a side job. They're getting paid by the state or by the construction company. I don't know who exactly pays them in this circumstance, but they're paid by a private or public company. You go to Knoxville, a lot of the bars downtown, clubs downtown Knoxville, their security are off-duty officers that are working that normally work city of Knoxville police officer job. A lot of Nashville, a lot of those bars and things like that. Their security is off-duty police officers, and so Marty went over there and tried to make a big deal that these deputies were over there and they were working off the clock or on the clock and try to get everybody stirred up and trying to say that we were paying our taxpayer money to these deputies' salary and they were over there working a side job. Not true. Actually, Marty was confronted by one of the deputies and actually told that she was on vacation. It was a side job. Marty didn't want to hear it because Marty's all knowing and all powerful, so she thinks, and wanted to start up this uproar. And an uproar it did. A lot of folks were confused, don't understand how the process works. A lot of folks came to the deputy's defense, and some folks absolutely were just horrified, mad, because our tax dollars are going to pay these officers for being over there in Knoxville at Duck Goose. So again, folks, these officers, as far as John Dennis, don't get paid on the clock or off the clock. Nope, he works for free. But these officers, at least one of them, was on vacation on her own time. Duck Duck Goose, or the company over Duck Duck Goose, paid her salary for working that job, and it just boggled my mind seeing it because Marty knows. Marty knows how it works. Marty absolutely knows what she was doing. But she chose to do it because she thought it would stir up the community so much that they'd start going after the deputies that were over there and ultimately wanted to go after the sheriff allowing these officers to go work an extra job at Duck Duck Goose. Well, if that be the case, then we shouldn't have officers on the side of the road working construction. In Marty's world, none of these side jobs should work or should even exist. In Marty's world, these officers shouldn't be able to make a living. I own my delivery company and I do some other side jobs. As occasionally I'll do Uber Eats or other things to raise money especially when I'm a little short for the day or for the week. You do things that you've got to do to support your family. And here we are in a situation where deputy, and I've known deputies to do side jobs and actually make more money working a side job than they do at their regular job. I've known officers that go buy big fancy houses and big fancy boats and big fancy cars, and they pay for them by working side jobs. I've known officers that nearly worked, it seemed like 24/7. They'd work their regular job and then they'd work these side jobs in order to buy the things that they wanted. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that's their choice. They choose to do these side jobs. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no rule against it. And then I hear the argument, well, they shouldn't be using their county owned vehicle. Well, I believe Marty showed that these officers had their private vehicles over there, their personal vehicles over there. So there was no county vehicle over there. As far as I know, as far as I've been able to find out, there was no county owned vehicle over there. And I'll go a step further. In some situations, i.e., the highway being constructed over there, sometimes they pay for the county vehicle to be there for security, for safety, for whatever reason. When the deputies decide that our job gets posted, and let me tell you, a lot of these side jobs actually get offered to the department, and then normally the department will put a sign-up sheet or some kind of way to allow officers, when they come in for roll call, if they have roll call. I know Knoxville they did. You come in for roll call, and on the bulletin board there's a list of churches. That's another one. You get these churches. These churches, you don't see people griping about an officer or a deputy working these churches in the traffic zone, getting cars out of the parking lot on Sunday morning. That's a side job. That church is paying that officer to come and do that. It's a side job, and they're in their cruiser, and they're in uniform and all that. It's a side job, but because of who these deputies were, and because of vendetta against the sheriff, and everybody knows my opinion on the sheriff. I'm not sticking up for the sheriff or whatever. I am simply stating facts. So these officers have the opportunity to do these extra jobs. In Union County, there's not a lot of them. Maybe if the rodeo was here. Oh, wait, rodeo. You think the deputies that are working security at the rodeo are actually on duty? Some of them might be. Most of them are being paid by the rodeo to be security. It goes for anything that goes on in the county. You think, well, I could use example after example after example. You think, I've had the privilege of working security at the UT football games at Neyland Stadium. You think all those officers that are working there are working on the clock for the city or the county or UT? No. Some of them are actually working side jobs as security. They're being paid by UT to do that job. Same thing here. Duck Duck Goose paid these officers as a side job to do this job. And like I said, I would bet, well, I'd say for certain, 95% sure that Marty knows that, but she only wanted to stir the pot. And so that's why she did the video. And that's why she wanted to point it out to Union County citizens that, busted.
Uh-oh. Busted.
That was for drama. That was for effect. That was for you to be outraged. It was simply made for the citizens of Union County to be mad at the sheriff for allowing this to happen. And you're right. It's just one more thing to take the attention off the real issues, like Justin Davis, who was murdered in the jail, and Kathy. And I agree with that 100%. There is no story in the Union News Leader about a county commissioner that abused his dogs. No mention of that in the UNL, which is actually a factual situation that happened. But yet we get articles about constables that are full of lies and truth bending, and articles about me when I speak to county commission and saying that I flail my arms around like a baby bird and all this other nonsense. But it's just simply to make people feel small. It's all about making people understand that she's part of the government. She's on the board, on the beer board. She's the head of the beer board, in fact, which I've never figured that one out. But you know, but she gets away with it. And why? Because she's the voice, she's the face of the local government. She wants to do everything she can to make them look good. That's why all her stories, when it comes to a new jail or raising taxes or all these kinds of things, are always fluff pieces. They're always about how good and hard these commissioners are working. And I'm not saying they don't work hard or whatever, but it's always about how these things have to happen in order for the county to operate. And my position has always been, when it comes to like taxes, for instance, is have we looked at all the options? Have we looked at everything that could possibly be cut before we decide to hurt the citizens of Union County? But our county officials don't like to do that. Hopefully next August we change that, and we change a lot of things next August, and we get this county headed in the right direction. But again, it makes me so mad. And like I said, I've talked to Marty. We've come to agreements on some things. And if Marty, let me set the record straight. If Marty today called me and asked me for my assistance on a situation, and then I looked into that situation, I found out that it was factual and that what her concern was a legitimate concern, I would sit here and I would fight for Marty too. So anybody that wants to come out and say I'm just against Marty or whatever, uh, it's BS. I always try to fight for what I think is right and what I believe in. And so that's what brought me to this situation here tonight and talking about these deputies working a side job. It's trying to use my word, trying to be nice, but it's bullshit. That's exactly what it was, and she knew it when she did it, and that's why she waddled out of there the way she did. And when she got confronted by Deputy Williams, and Deputy Williams tried to explain it, Marty already knew what she was doing, but she went there. She tried to cause a scene. She tried to do what she actually wanted to do, and I think that she might have actually succeeded just a little bit because she wanted to get under those deputies' skin. She wanted to, for lack of a better word, harass these deputies. and she wanted to make them feel uncomfortable and like she had something on them, even though she didn't. And the deputies knew she didn't. Any deputy out there knew she didn't, but the public, you watching this podcast, anybody that reads that paper, and I guarantee there's probably going to be a story about it at some point in time, but it's absolutely going to be Marty Billy bad. Period. Union County Sheriff's Department bad. Period. Just a few months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, it was the sheriff could do no wrong. And then whatever happened between the two, then all of a sudden, it's all all out attack. Union News Leader is Marty's one-sided opinionated diary. She writes, but and she publishes to make herself feel important. Absolutely. Now let me tell you, like I said, if Marty had a serious concern and I agreed with it, like I said, I'd fight right by her side. And will it happen? Maybe. Have we worked together before? Absolutely, we have. I've exposed some things in the past with Marty's help. I'm not like I said, I dig anything I'm going to talk about on the podcast. I'm going to dig into it before I talk about it. And some of that I had to go through Marty to do. So and I told Sidney Jesse this. I talked to him at the commission meeting. Nothing that I do on this podcast or anything like that is personal. I may not like somebody. I don't like the job they do. I don't like the spin when it comes to Marty. I don't like the lying. I don't like when the mayor sits up there and slams his fist on the table and says, I want control. I don't like being called a liar by the mayor and knowing that I was telling the truth. And I'm so glad that Commissioner Angela Connor Murphy spoke up and said that I wasn't lying and that she, in fact, got one of the phone calls and when that whole deal was being made. But it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate their position. It doesn't mean that I just solely want to attack them. I don't like two-faced people. I do not. I despise two-faced people. And just so I don't want somebody that's going to tell me one thing to my face and then do something completely different, i.e. Sidney Jesse. I've had meeting after meeting after meeting with him. And we've talked about a lot of things. And for a head of a conservative party, the Republican Party in Union County, he does everything but act like a conservative. He acts like a Democrat, right down to the core. He does, and he's been the backing support for almost every tax increase that we've had in the last several years. I don't like it, but it all comes with an agenda. Everything they do has an agenda, and I don't like that either. And then you get into the speculation of, okay, where they're doing this property for this building, and they might be related. I've heard all those, and then you hear all this other stuff. Well, they did this backdoor deal with the Constable Association, which I looked into that and I proved it, and the rest is history. But so I mean, like I said, you look at, one of my favorite lines, right? Smoke and mirrors. I used to say it all the time. I probably need to start again, but smoke and mirrors. This act right here, this was
Uh-oh.
simply smoke and
Busted.
mirrors. This was simply to get your mind off of things that are actually going on, i.e., like they said, the deaths in the jail, the tax increase coming, this new jail being built, all these things that I've been telling you about on these podcasts that you're going to have to pay for. Well, they had to do something. And the dogs, when I exposed the animal cruelty, that went away in a hurry. After I exposed it, you ain't heard nothing else about it. And that blows my mind too. Not that dogs being mistreated is the exact same as a kitten being thrown, but that kitten being thrown outraged a whole lot more people than these 6 dogs not being fed and taken care of by a county commissioner. But it's like a shiny object. One of my favorite lines is from one of the kids' movies that they used to watch was, "Oh, stop for a pretzel." That's the kind of thing, right? So you're focused on, oh no, we've got to do something about the situation going on in the jail, all these deaths going on in the jail. We've got this tax increase we're going to have to do with building this new jail. We've got to throw something out there to get people's focus off of it. So let's throw some shade back at the sheriff. Because everybody knows by now the sheriff is public enemy number 1 in Union County when it comes to county commission and the mayor and all this. Again, he's been, and probably rightly so. So don't get me wrong. Like I said, everybody knows my opinion on the sheriff, but everybody talked about him not coming to the county commission and giving his report. Well, every time he was, if you go back and watch the county commission meetings, he was being attacked every time. Should he still be coming? Absolutely, he should. But I'd get tired of being harassed all the time too. Not only that, but then you've got the government newspaper attacking him on top of it, and all this stuff. And like I said, and people are going to come after me for saying I'm taking the side of the sheriff. Everybody knows that I 1,000,000% believe we need a new sheriff. I don't think he's done a good job, and I do think that he's let the citizens and voters of Union County down. So let's be clear. But I understand where he's coming from, because that same county commission has attacked me. That same newspaper has attacked me. That same group of people have attacked me. I've been called and texted and threatened and called names by several of those county commissioners. I ain't going to go in all of it, but I've been there, folks, so I understand. And the same thing with the UNL. I've been attacked. I've been made fun of. I've had people dress up like me and do fake podcasts. You know, that's still cracking. But yeah, I've had all these things happen, and they do it because they figure if they can beat you down enough that you'll finally get back in line and you'll finally start doing what they expect you to do, or you start doing what they expect you. Them, yeah, y'all know what I'm trying to say. And eventually, they want you to give up. And the proof I have for that personally is, like I said on the last podcast, when I broke away from the Tennessee Freedom Coalition and doing that podcast, they thought they finally had it. They thought that I was finally going to either be done or switch teams. And then quickly find, like I said, bought me lunch. Appreciate it. Lil Joe's, where we went. And I ate good. and yeah, and they wrote a nice fluff piece talking about how good of a person I was and all that kind of stuff. I showed the plaque, that I had made from that article on the last podcast, and they thought they had me. I was called and everything from some commissioners talking about how the election was stolen and I should have won and I'd be a great commissioner and just all this stuff, like kissing my rear end, right? And then next thing you know, I start the podcast back. I started exposing the same things I was exposing before. And now those same people that were calling me at least once a week, twice a week, won't even speak to me again. And so it is what it is. But I am true to myself. I'm true to what my purpose is, or I believe my purpose is. And that is getting the information out there to you and telling the truth about it and leaving it in your hands to either agree with me or disagree with me. And I said a million times, I don't want you to believe what I say. I want you to take what I say, look into it yourself, and make your own opinion. I give you the facts. You can verify my facts. And like I said, 99.9% of the time, you'll find out that everything that I say is 100% correct. Occasionally, I'll make a mistake. I'm human. Everybody does. Let's see. Let's see what some of these comments say. What's been done by TBI? My understanding, there's still an ongoing investigation. Well, that's what John Dennis says. There's still an investigation going on. From my understanding, there's an investigation going on into several things. So we'll just have to wait and see. And yeah, again, we go back. A lot of what goes on in the local media is just to distract you from focusing on what you probably should be focusing on. Your newsletter, I read that one. I hear harassment, here lock them up. That's another thing. While I'm just on here ranting, I don't understand why the newspaper, the owners of the newspaper, let her do some of the things that they do. You would think they'd finally get tired of it. You'd think they'd be afraid of being sued, which Lil Birdie told me that might be possibly happening fairly soon. But you would think that they would wisen up. But again, that paper is only in business because of the government contract they have with the court records and all the advertisements and all that. You think that the UNL goes up there and records that county commission meeting and stuff because they're not getting anything out of it? Absolutely, they're getting something out of it. One, they're getting the fluff cover every time they need it. Hence the fact that the mayor goes over there and tells Marty, will you put that in the paper and you can quote me and stuff like that? Because he knows that the local paper is going to cover for them every time they need them to. But yeah, the tax sales, the court records, arrest records, all those things that are in the paper, our tax money is paying for that to go in there. That's why that paper is in business. You think that the Knoxville News Sentinel would be raising their prices so high if people were actually buying the papers like they used to? They don't. You think the UNL is any different? You think people are just buying it like crazy to keep them enough in business? They're not. It's because of the government contracts and the few advertisings that they have in there that keeps them in business. Plain and simple. I think Sheriff Marty or Matt have it. That's a good one. Corrupt politics are a severe issue in the county. This buddy system they run cover up each other's wrongdoing is a major issue in Union County. Absolutely, they are. And ultimately, who's responsible for that? We are. The voters are. The people that keep voting the same people in office every election. That's our fault because he's always been a commissioner. He's my neighbor. He's my friend. He's a relative. All these other reasons why we vote for somebody instead of the right reason, which is voting for somebody who's actually going to do the job and do the job the right way. And so, again, next August, hopefully the citizens of Union County wisen up, and hopefully we've got some good candidates because that makes a lot of difference. And hopefully we get the right people in there, and we get this county headed in the right direction. So, but again, that's up to us and that kind of thing. And I've heard some rumors about who's going to run for sheriff or who's going to run for mayor and all this. And again, if you're thinking about running, I'll throw this offer out there like I do every election. If you want to come on the podcast, we'll do an interview and we'll go from there. We'll do the way I do my interviews are the exact same and fair to everybody. I ask the exact same questions to every candidate for that particular office. Some of the questions I'll give you ahead of time, some of them I don't. And then we let the viewers at home also ask questions. Those of you who've been around a while I've done these interviews know how I do it. It's fair. I don't attack anybody. I'll ask questions, and I let the citizens of Union County decide. One of these days, I'm gonna pull up the video of election night where Sidney Jesse attacked me just because I lost. But am I going to run? I talked about that in the last podcast. I've not decided if I was or I'm not. Like I said on the last podcast I did, I don't want my family attacked like they were before. The last time I ran, I don't want them harassed. It's not fair to them because of a decision that I made. But I may or I may not. We'll have to wait and see. And if I do, I'm going to call on all of you, the Dirt Podcast viewers, to do everything you can to help me because I'll need the support. I'll need the help. I'm not saying money. I'm just talking about getting out there and knocking on some doors and that goes for any candidate. If you got a candidate that you really like and you want to win and that kind of thing, you should be excited to not only vote for that person, but actually go help them on their campaign. Actually go out there, knock on some doors, and tell other people why they should vote for your candidate, and uh, and that kind. And so, uh, when you are in a campaign, I tried my best when I ran to knock on every door in the fourth district. Did I miss some? Absolutely. Uh, and did I talk to somebody at every door that I knocked on? No, because sometimes people don't answer the door, and number of reasons. But I tried, and I left a card in every door that I stopped at, whether you wanted it or not. A lot of my signs got stolen. I know that much. But my biggest concern, like I said, is my family, and so it's just a decision that has to be made. Uh, and there might be 20 candidates out here in the fourth district by the time the election comes. So who knows? Um, and the same thing with the sheriff. There might be 5 candidates for sheriff going around, and that's scary in itself because you're spreading your vote too thin, and that's how the sheriff won last time, is because the votes got spread too thin, and some other things. But yeah, so we got to be careful. We just need to focus on a candidate as a group and support a candidate or two, and just back them and do everything we can to get them in office. John Dennis for Sheriff 2026. I've been saying that. You can ask him. I just told him that the other day. But I know John's got some health issues going on and that kind of thing. But hey, if you can talk him into it, I'd be more than happy to throw my support behind him. I'm not running for anything. I just put a sign in my yard. Yeah, Miss Jeanette, sometimes the signs get put in your yard and you never take them down, and or they never get picked back up. What else y'all got on your mind? That's all I've got for tonight. Like I said, all my other stuff kind of got taken off because my dang computer updated right before the podcast. But y'all got anything else on your mind that you want me to comment on or try to figure out or look into? And again, we've not forgot about Justin and all the other folks that have been mistreated in the jail and that kind of thing. I still pray for them, so I ask for you to still pray for them and their family and that kind of thing. Um, we had the inmate at the jail, Danny, that got beat up pretty severely. He didn't deserve that either, I don't guess. As severely as it happened and as much time as it took for anything to be done with it, and Justin and all this other stuff. We've not forgot, and I promise that family that I won't forget. And like I said, I'll always do my best to support them in any way I can. Well, Jeanette have a Billy sign. Uh, Jeanette's going to have the biggest sign you have ever seen, and it's going to have flashing lights and glitter and everything, and you'll be able to see that from the moon and her yard, and it's going to be flashing. Billy for president, not sheriff. Billy for president. That's what Jeanette's gonna have in her yard. I'm just teasing. Anybody else got anything they want to say? How about Mr. Brantley? Maybe Mr. Brantley needs to run for county commissioner or some other office again. Give everybody just another minute or two. House. Well, hopefully, come next August, we can survive till then. Hopefully, it'll be gone. Anybody else got any questions? Anything you want me to look into? Any concerns? Anything? I'm overqualified. Well, Mr. Brantley, he could run for mayor. There's your job, Mr. Brantley. Run for mayor. Run for mayor of Sharps Chapel. Maybe we just need to break it off into different sections. All right, folks. If you don't have anything else, then I appreciate you joining me on the podcast tonight. Thank you for being here again. Sorry for the delay tonight. Just things happen, I guess. Hopefully we'll be back next Tuesday night, Lord willing. And with that being said, thank you. Good night. Remember to pray for me. I'll pray for you. And we'll see you next time. Good night.
You just heard The Dirt, digging to the bottom of every situation to get the truth with your host, Jason Mills. Tune in next week at the same time for another Dirt broadcast.